This is O'Reilly's Weir on the Lockyer Creek. This is the most downstream barrier on Lockyer Creek, one of 20 weirs and two dams, and just about a kilometre downstream, a little bit more, this is where the Lockyer Creek joins the Brisbane River. When this weir was built, they recognised back then even that fish needed to migrate and that these weirs blocked the migration of fish. So they did a good thing and they built a fishway or a fish ladder on this weir. And I guess for the time, or at the time, it was pretty good. It was about the best they knew how to do. Unfortunately, this style of ladder where fish need to leap from pool to pool isn't really good for Australian native fish. There's not many that will be able to jump up from pool to pool. Maybe some mullet, maybe spangle perch might be able to, and baby eels or elvers. Now there's better technology around these days. I've learned a bit more since this weir was built. There's vertical slot fishways, which instead of fish needing to jump from pool to pool, they can make their way up through slots in these small pools here, and they can swim up, rest in the next pool, and regain their strength, and then make their way up from pool to pool to go from the bottom side of the weir to the top side. Now, native fish need to migrate. They need to, upstream is naturally the nursery area for many juvenile fish. Their instinct is to swim upstream as far as they can, and it's also part of a migration pattern where adult fish will migrate downstream from those nursery areas to reproduce, and then they'll migrate back upstream again after they spawn or they breed. So it's really important to maintain fish passage for many of our native fish species. So their instinct is they swim upstream, up through here, they get to this weir and they can't get any further. This fish ladder is not really relevant to them, so they can't make their way up. And then after this flow, this pool here will dry up. It'll get isolated from the main creek because of the way it's the design originally, and the erosion from the weir has moved some of those rocks around. So fish will get trapped right here. And when this weir stops running, they'll start to use all their dissolved oxygen. They run out of food, and the result can be fish deaths here locally. And we've seen that here before. Now in this water we've got endangered Mary River cod. There once was a Brisbane River cod, but it's extinct. And barriers like this are part of the reason why we've got an extinct species here. And the Brisbane River cod is being replaced now with the endangered Mary River cod. There's also other iconic Australian species, recreation species as well, like Australian bass. They're due to restocking. They're again quite common in these waterways, but they want to try and migrate up here. And there's also jungle perch, which were once common and they're now locally extinct. Again, due in part to there's hundreds and hundreds of barriers similar to this one throughout the Brisbane River catchment and catchments all across Australia, to be honest. Now, part of the other problem here is that since this was built, there's been no maintenance. You can see you might be able to see there, the mesh holding that rock in place, that's gone. You can see the scouring as floods have moved some of the rock away from there. There's erosion downstream. And what the inherent nature of a weir like this, it slows the water down on the top stream side, helping to build floods. And then as the water passes over the barrier, it accelerates the velocity of the water, particularly in a larger flow. and it creates turbulence, faster flow, and that's when you get the erosion downstream. Now further down from here, the scouring and erosion way downstream there, it's torn tons and tons of topsoil and taken out trees, and we've got really bad erosion, all because this Weir's here. Now the other part of lack of maintenance is this fishway. I think when they built it, there's been no maintenance done on it since then, and that's decades old. So even if this was really suitable for most native fish, the fact that it's clogged up with logs, there's some of the steps here have eroded and broken. So that jump there is probably nearly close to a metre. Even if there are some fish that can make their way up this style of fish ladder, this one is totally unsuitable because the lack of maintenance. So really, this fish ladder at O'Reilly's Weir, it really needs some maintenance done on it. It needs to be cleaned out and fixed up at least to its original spec. But then with some modifications, it might be able to be made more suitable for native fish, so that we can get more migration upstream and downstream of our native fish and reduce the need for ongoing restocking throughout the catchment. Now, due to the modification of many of our waterways and the introduction of pest fish, we've made the habitat less suitable for native fish and more suitable for some of these introduced pests. So you can see here a large school of pretty big carp. They're sitting here in this plunge pool, and they're all pretty big fish. Some of those are 1/2 metre long. So while the native fish struggle in these kind of conditions, we make ideal conditions for introduced pest fish to thrive. Now, these pest fish don't need to migrate. These carp and this tilapia in here, they'll breed in a bucket almost. So they don't need to migrate up and down. So we're making life really easy by creating these pools from these weirs and making it really hard for our native fish to survive, let alone thrive.